The history of marriage and control in America. 19th century, reform and resistance. The 19th century in America was a period of profound transformation in the institution of marriage, marked by both significant reforms and persistent resistance. While the old patriarchal order, rooted in the doctrine of coverture and the subordination of women, began to crack, change was slow and uneven. This era saw the rise of industrialization, the emergence of the women's rights movement, the passage of Married Women's Property Acts, and ongoing struggles over divorce and social norms. Below is a comprehensive overview of these developments. 1. Industrialization and shifting gender roles. Economic change and women's work. The onset of industrialization in the early 1800s fundamentally altered the American economy and family structure. As men increasingly worked outside the home for wages, women's traditional roles as producers within the household diminished. The rise of factories, especially in the textile industry, created new opportunities for women to earn wages outside the home. The Lowell Mill girls in Massachusetts, for example, were young single women who left rural areas to work in textile mills, seeking economic independence and new social experiences, economic independence. For the first time, significant numbers of women could earn their own wages, which provided a measure of autonomy and delayed marriage for some. Double burden. Despite these opportunities, most women, especially those who married, continued to shoulder the double burden of paid work and unpaid domestic labor cult of domesticity. The dominant ideology of the cult of domesticity reinforced the notion that a woman's proper place was in the home, as a moral guardian and caretaker, even as economic realities often required women to work. 2. The women's rights movement and the Seneca Falls Convention. The Seneca Falls Convention, 1848. The women's rights movement gained national attention with the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, organized by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott. The convention produced the Declaration of Sentiments, which explicitly condemned the legal and social subordination of women, particularly within marriage as civil death. Stanton and her allies described marriage under existing laws as a form of civil death for women, echoing the reality that a married woman lost her legal identity, property rights, and autonomy. Key grievances. The Declaration of Sentiments listed grievances such as the denial of the right to vote, own property, earn wages, and obtain a divorce without losing custody of children. Stanton argued that marriage laws gave men absolute tyranny over women. Divorce reform. Stanton was a vocal advocate for making divorce more accessible, arguing that women should not be trapped in abusive or unhappy marriages. She also called for women to retain property and custody rights after divorce, demands that were considered radical even within the movement. 3. Legal reforms, Married Women's Property Acts. The doctrine of coverture and its challenge. Under the doctrine of coverture, a married woman's legal identity was subsumed under her husband's. She could not own property, enter contracts, or control her own earnings. This left women economically dependent and vulnerable. The First Property Acts, Mississippi, 1839. The first Married Women's Property Act in the U.S. was passed in Mississippi, allowing married women to own property in their own names, particularly property they brought into the marriage or inherited, and protecting it from their husband's debts. New York, 1848. New York, Married Women's Property Act became a model for other states, declaring that all property owned by a woman at marriage or acquired by gift or inheritance would remain her separate property and not be subject to her husband's control or debts. Spread and limitations. Gradual adoption. By 1900, every state had enacted some form of Married Women's Property Act, but the scope and effectiveness of these laws varied widely. Regional differences. Southern states often focused on protecting family wealth from creditors, while Western states, influenced by Spanish civil law, recognized community property. Judicial interpretation. Courts often interpreted these laws narrowly, and many only protected property acquired before marriage, not property earned during marriage. Racial and class disparities. The benefits of these laws were not equally distributed. White property-owning women benefited most, while Black and Native women faced additional barriers,